We've come a long way with these examples. We identified core problems worth solving. We built economically viable business models around them. We mapped the value systems for every stakeholder, and we decomposed the solution right down to its essential ingredients. In other words, we've thoroughly explored everything within the solution horizon. But here's the thing about horizons. They're not walls. They're invitations, because for every challenge that hasn't found its most optimized resolution yet, the answers often live beyond the boundaries of where we've been looking, beyond the edges of the problem as we've defined it, beyond the solution as we've currently shaped it. And that's exactly where we're headed now. This stage is about practicing the art of outcome exploration, using the same real-world examples we've been working with. We take the exploratory thinking frameworks we've discussed, and we deliberately push past the perceived boundaries to discover what becomes possible when you stop being constrained by the solution you've already imagined. Our three examples, the refurbished circuit components marketplace, automated detection of vector density increase, and the virtual trial room, each hold more potential than we've uncovered so far. Let's go find it. Before we dive deep in the journey of outcome exploration, let's quickly ground ourselves in the first solution we've been building around. The refurbished electronic circuit components marketplace tackles the growing e-waste crisis head-on. It procures recyclable devices, systematically extracts reusable parts, puts them through rigorous quality control and compliance checks, and sells them through an online marketplace backed by warranty and assurance mechanisms that build trust with customers and repair professionals alike. A circular, purposeful model, that's the foundation. Now, let's revisit what it's built from. When we decomposed this solution, we identified the full set of inputs and functions that make it work. Recyclable electronics collection to payment, on-site inspection and evaluation, transport and storage, electronics parts, quality check, parts extraction, firmware acquisition for programmable chipsets, integration readiness, evaluation for both fixed function and programmable chips, inventory management, weather protection, order-to-delivery management, revenue management, debt management, warranty management, and scrap recycle management, each one essential, each one load-bearing. But when we mapped these against the input-outcome time framework, 3 of them revealed a particular tension, one worth pausing on. Warranty management is non-negotiable from a customer trust perspective, but every warranty claim adds support overhead. More claims mean more cost, more resource drain, and that creates a negative covariance pull against the overall solution objective. Important, but expensive to scale. Weather protection for electronics parts is time-varying in nature. Its demands shift with the seasons, the storage conditions, the geography. It requires constant, active attention. Get it wrong, and your inventory degrades silently. It's a critical capability, but a demanding one. And scrap recycle management reinforces the green engineering purpose at the heart of this solution, but it also accumulates as operational overhead over time, positioning it too in negative covariance with the use case objective. 3 tensions, all real, all important to address. So, let's think about them differently. This is where exploratory thinking earns its value, because the instinctive response to overhead is almost always the same. Reduce, restrict, minimize. But that instinct, left unchallenged, leads to solutions that are adequate at best and limiting at worst. Let's see what happens when we push further. Start with warranty management. The conventional response is straightforward. Limit the warranty coverage, shorten the duration, reduce the exposure. Less warranty, less overhead. Problem managed. But now, apply unconstrained thinking. What if instead of limiting warranty, you automated it? Imagine an intelligent system that evaluates each refurbished component and dynamically determines the most feasible warranty coverage and duration based on its condition, its history, its integration readiness score. And then, automate the entire warranty management pipeline: claims intake, legitimacy evaluation, support routing, resolution processing, all of it running with minimal human intervention. Suddenly, warranty isn't a liability to be minimized. It becomes a differentiator, one you can offer more confidently, more consistently, and at a fraction of the manual overhead. The constraint that seemed fixed turns out to be an engineering problem in disguise. Now, weather protection for electronics parts. Traditional thinking says, follow what the original manufacturer did, copy their packaging standards, match their protection specifications, safe, familiar, proven, but apply lateral thinking, and a different question emerges. These devices weren't shipped from a factory. They lived in homes, in offices, in real environments, with real knowable conditions. So, what if you evaluated the primary weather environment the device actually operated in and derived your packaging criteria from that? A device that spent its life in an air-conditioned office has very different protection needs than one pulled from a humid warehouse. In most cases, you'd likely find that insulated, moisture-proof, dust-proof packaging, achievable cost-effectively, is all that's actually required. You've stopped copying a specification built for a different context and started designing one that fits your context precisely. Smarter protection, lower cost, better fit. And finally, scrap recycle management. The conventional path, follow the shortest route to compliance. Recycle the scrap responsibly, keep the overhead minimal, move on. But now apply analogous thinking and ask a completely different question. What if the scrap isn't waste at all? What if it's an untapped resource? Can metals be extracted from unusable boards and sold to material recovery partners? Can non-functional circuit boards, with their intricate, visually striking patterns, be repurposed as display models for marketing? Could they become the raw material for electronics-inspired art, a growing niche with genuine commercial interest? Could there be other creative transformations that turn what was overhead into an additional revenue stream? What started as a cost center could become a value generator, and in doing so, it deepens the green engineering story rather than just managing it. 3 challenges, 3 thinking styles, 3 pathways to solutions that go well beyond the obvious, and that, precisely, is the point. The decomposed view didn't just describe the solution, it revealed the pressure points, and the thinking frameworks gave us the tools to transform those pressure points into opportunities. One final note, the analysis explored here is illustrative in nature. It doesn't constitute a comprehensive or exhaustive outcome. Every real-world situation will carry its own unique context, its own constraints, its own possibilities. But here's what holds true universally. When you learn to use these thinking frameworks and apply them with discipline and curiosity to real problems, the opportunities are genuinely boundless. That's the art of outcome exploration, and it's a skill worth mastering. Let's return to the 8-part construct, but with a different lens this time. Earlier, we used it to map what causes what: inputs, outcomes, covariance, time. Now we're asking a sharper, more action-oriented set of questions. Not just what drives the solution, but what helps it, what hurts it, and what could be changed to make it better. That shift in framing, from causation to evaluation, is what opens the door to genuine exploration. So let's walk through it, feature by feature, outcome by outcome. Start with the advantageous features, the ones actively working in the solution's favor. 3 stand out clearly. First, a robust electronics part evaluation process. This is the quality backbone of the entire marketplace. As long as this remains rigorous and reliable, the solution continues to deliver trustworthy outcomes for every stakeholder downstream. Second, firmware partnership leverage. The ability to access firmware for programmable chipsets through structured vendor relationships is a distinctive capability that directly unlocks refurbishment potential that would otherwise be lost. It's a competitive edge, and it needs to be protected and deepened. Third, an innovative part extraction process. The technical sophistication of how components are carefully isolated from discarded devices directly determines what enters the supply chain. Maintain and improve this, and the quality of the entire marketplace improves with it. These three features, as long as they are sustained and continuously invested in, keep the solution producing the outcomes it promises. Now, the disadvantageous feature. And it's one that's familiar to us: storage and transport of refurbished electronics parts. Let's be precise about why this is disadvantageous. It's not that storage and transport are unimportant. They're absolutely essential. The problem is the overhead they carry, compounded by the fact that inventory isn't uniformly available across all business locations. You're managing logistics complexity and supply inconsistency at the same time. From the perspective of the solutions operators, this combination creates a persistent drag: cost, coordination effort, and coverage gaps that are difficult to fully resolve. It's a feature you can't do without, but one that consistently works against operational efficiency. Now let's bring time into the picture, starting with the time-linked advantageous features. Two processes are expected to improve naturally as the solution matures: the electronics part evaluation process and the part extraction process. Both of these are highly technical. They require deep subject matter expertise, the kind that builds gradually through experience, iteration, and learning. And as that expertise deepens with time, the quality, speed, and reliability of both processes improves. Better evaluation means fewer errors. Better extraction means higher yield. Time, in this case, is genuinely an ally, and the solution should be designed to capitalize on that trajectory. But time also brings a disadvantageous feature, one that's easy to overlook until it hits: seasonal availability of recyclable electronics, specifically around home shifting periods that tend to cluster near school term beginnings and endings. Think about it. Families moving homes are one of the most reliable sources of discarded electronics. But that supply isn't steady. It surges in certain windows and drops in others. And that seasonality makes maintaining a consistent supply chain genuinely difficult. It's a time-dependent vulnerability, and one that demands proactive planning around demand forecasting, collection incentives, and buffer inventory strategies. Now shift to outcomes, and start with the clear winner. The most powerful advantageous outcome this solution can achieve is maintaining a highly sought-after demand and supply of refurbished electronics components. When buyers consistently find what they need, quality assured, fairly priced, reliably delivered, the marketplace earns the kind of reputation that compounds over time. And that reputation feeds directly into the time-dependent, advantageous outcome: the ability to progressively scale the business, covering more geographies, more device types, more component categories. This isn't just growth for its own sake. It's the natural evolution of a solution that keeps delivering on its promise, momentum that builds on itself. But alongside those wins, there are disadvantageous outcomes that must be honestly acknowledged. The first is cost of quality. The technical complexity of part evaluation and extraction, combined with the scarcity of skilled subject matter experts, means that doing this well is inherently expensive. That cost is real, and the solution operators must absorb it as the price of credibility. There's no shortcut that doesn't eventually show up as a quality failure downstream. And then there are the fluctuations in cost of sustenance, the time-dependent disadvantageous outcomes. Weather-related storage challenges, warranty claim spikes, scrap recycling overheads. These don't arrive in a predictable, manageable stream. They fluctuate, they accumulate. And unless some of them are addressed through the kinds of innovative thinking we explored earlier, automation, lateral packaging design, value extraction from scrap, they become a persistent drag on the solution's financial health. So, step back and take in the full picture. Advantageous features driving quality and differentiation, a disadvantageous feature demanding logistics innovation, time-linked features that reward investment and demand seasonal strategy, a powerful core outcome building reputation and scale, and cost pressures, both fixed and variable, that require disciplined management and creative mitigation. This is what a full spectrum features outcomes time domain analysis looks like, applied to a real solution with real complexity. A quick but important note. The analysis shown here is illustrative. It doesn't constitute a comprehensive or exhaustive outcome. Every real-world situation will carry nuances, constraints, and opportunities that go well beyond what any single framework pass can capture. But what it does demonstrate, clearly and powerfully, is how this kind of structured thinking prepares the ground for exploration. It tells you exactly where to look, what to question, and where innovation is most likely to make a meaningful difference. And that clarity is where the next level of thinking begins. Here's where the features outcomes time domain canvas stops being just an analysis and starts becoming a launch pad. Every tension we've identified, every disadvantageous feature, every cost pressure, each one of them is an invitation to explore, to question, and to innovate. Let me show you exactly what that looks like. Take the time-dependent cost fluctuations, the overheads from weather protection, warranty issues, and scrap recycling. We've already flagged these as drags on the solution, but look at them through the lens of unconstrained thinking and analogous thinking, and they transform into design challenges worth solving. For weather protection, instead of defaulting to expensive, over-engineered packaging standards, ask a simpler question. How was this device actually living before it was discarded? It was in someone's home or office, already surviving in a real-world environment. Evaluate those conditions. Derive your packaging criteria from that reality. Chances are, insulated, moisture-proof, dust-proof packaging, achievable at low cost, is all you actually need. Smarter, cheaper, purpose-fitted. For warranty management, instead of capping coverage to control overhead, explore automation, an intelligent system that determines warranty terms based on each component's condition. Automated claims intake, legitimacy checks, support routing, resolution workflows. The overhead shrinks dramatically, and ironically, you can now offer more warranty, not less, because the cost of managing it has been engineered down. For scrap recycling, stop asking how to manage it and start asking how to monetize it. Can metals be extracted and sold to material recovery partners? Can circuit boards, with their striking visual complexity, become marketing display models or electronics art? The overhead doesn't just reduce, it potentially reverses into a revenue stream, and the green engineering story gets stronger, not weaker. Now look at the high cost of quality, driven by technical complexity and scarce expertise. This is a classic case for lateral thinking. The conventional response is to hire more experts or simplify the process, but lateral thinking asks, what if the expertise could be systematized? What if evaluation protocols could be codified, guided by intelligent tooling, so that the knowledge of a few becomes accessible to many? The cost of quality stops being a function of headcount and starts being a function of smart process design. And then there's a fascinating coupling that deserves its own moment: seasonal availability of recyclable electronics and storage and transport overheads. These two challenges are deeply intertwined. Supply surges around school term changes, and when it surges, storage fills and logistics costs spike. When supply drops, the pipeline runs thin. Treat them separately, and you're always playing catch-up. But bring them together as a coupled problem, and apply adaptive thinking, and new possibilities emerge. Dynamic collection incentive programs that smooth supply across seasons. Distributed micro-storage partnerships that reduce centralized logistics pressure. Demand forecasting models that let the business prepare for the surge rather than react to it. Two challenges, one integrated solution space, adaptive thinking connecting the dots. This is the full power of the exploratory canvas. It doesn't just describe the solution, it reveals exactly where to direct your thinking, which framework to apply, and what questions to ask next. Every challenge on the canvas is a door, and behind each door, with the right thinking style, is an innovation waiting to be found. Let's ground ourselves quickly in the next solution we've been building around. The automated detection of vector density increase solution tackles the root causes of health risks that arise when vector populations surge in communities. It implements automated monitoring and integrated response workflows that trigger timely, coordinated action across subscriber localities, delivered through local partnerships and strict adherence to locality-specific environmental SOPs, early detection, integrated response, assured outcomes. That's the foundation. Now, let's revisit what it's built from. When we decomposed this solution, we identified the full set of inputs and functions that make it work. Vector density detection software from video streams, software for analysis and action initiation, partnership with compatible camera vendors, secured and reliable hosting for both the detection software and the analysis and action initiation platform, partnership with treatment and insecticide providers, sales coverage over localities, marketing campaigns with resident communities, brand reputation and customer base, managed operations over the complete life cycle, effectiveness assurance and quality control, and management of environmental side effects, each one essential, each one carefully positioned in the solution architecture. But when we mapped these against the input-outcome time framework, three of them surfaced a particular tension, one that deserves a closer look. SLA-oriented partnership with treatment and insecticide providers is a critical capability. It's the assurance mechanism that keeps treatment quality consistent and accountable. But every SLA introduces monitoring overhead, compliance tracking, and escalation management. As operational scale grows, that overhead compounds. Important, but expensive to maintain. Management of environmental side effects is a time-varying outcome that demands constant, evolving attention. As the solution scales across more localities and more treatment cycles, the environmental footprint grows, and so does the responsibility to track and manage it, a non-negotiable outcome, but a demanding one. And marketing campaigns with resident communities, the growth engine of the solution, raises a sharper question than it might first appear. Not just how to market, but what kind of marketing actually works in community health contexts, and how to make it cost-effective without losing impact. Three tensions, all real, all worth exploring differently. So, let's think about them with fresh eyes. This is where exploratory thinking does its best work, because the conventional response to overhead and complexity is almost always the same: contain it, reduce it, delegate it. But that instinct, left unchallenged, produces solutions that are safe but rarely exceptional. Let's see what opens up when we push further. Start with SLA-oriented partnerships with treatment and insecticide providers. The traditional response is familiar: draft tight SLAs, assign penalties for violations, and if the complexity gets too difficult to manage, simply reduce the assurance level to match what partners can realistically deliver. Risk delegated. Problem managed but not solved. Now apply unconstrained thinking. Instead of writing SLAs that penalize failures after they happen, what if you invested in preventing those failures in the first place? Imagine collaborative workshops, bringing together insecticide vendors and treatment service providers, not to review contract terms, but to genuinely understand why SLA violations occur. What are the root causes? Seasonal supply constraints, logistical bottlenecks, customer behavior patterns that complicate treatment scheduling? And from those conversations, what preventive mechanisms emerge? What customer awareness sessions could reduce the friction that leads to SLA stress? You've shifted from a penalty-driven model to a partnership-driven model. SLA compliance improves not because of fear of consequences, but because the partners now understand the system well enough to proactively protect it. The overhead doesn't just reduce, the relationship deepens. Now, management of environmental side effects. The conventional path is straightforward. Align with the standard operating guidelines provided by regulatory bodies, implement what's required, and let the guideline-providing entities worry about the broader environmental picture. Compliant, safe, but largely passive. Apply lateral thinking, and a completely different approach emerges. What if you went upstream, investigating the root causes of environmental side effects rather than just managing their consequences? What specific elements of the treatment process cause the most environmental impact? Are there operational modifications, different application methods, timing adjustments, alternative formulations that could meaningfully reduce those impacts without compromising treatment effectiveness? Invest in that lateral operational research, document the findings, and then take those insights back to the SOP providing entities. Contribute to the evolution of the guidelines themselves. Suddenly, you're not just a compliant operator. You're a thought leader in responsible vector management. The environmental overhead reduces, and your credibility with municipalities, resident bodies, and regulators rises significantly. And finally, marketing campaigns with resident communities. The traditional approach is familiar. Hire an advertising agency, run a B2C campaign, build awareness through conventional channels. It works, but it's expensive, often generic, and in community health contexts, frequently fails to build the trust that drives actual adoption. Now, apply analogous thinking and look at what's worked for others. Some of the most effective B2C marketing in trust-sensitive categories hasn't come from polished advertisements. It's come from customers' voices, real people, real experiences, real outcomes, testimonials from localities that subscribed and saw measurable results. Community leaders sharing how the solution changed their neighborhood's health profile. Residents describing what it felt like to go through a dengue season without an outbreak. This kind of marketing doesn't just create awareness, it creates belief. And belief in a community health context is what converts hesitant localities into committed subscribers. Cost-effective, authentic, and deeply resonant. Analogous thinking, drawing from what's already proven to work, applied to a context where it can do something genuinely powerful. 3 challenges, 3 thinking styles, 3 pathways to solutions that go well beyond the standard playbook. And once again, the analysis shown here is illustrative. It doesn't constitute a comprehensive or exhaustive outcome. Every real deployment will carry its own context, its own constraints, and its own unique opportunities. But what holds true universally is this: when you learn to use these thinking frameworks with discipline and curiosity, and apply them to real problems with genuine intent, the opportunities for innovation are truly boundless. That's the art of outcome exploration, and every solution you build becomes sharper for it. Let's return to the 8-part construct, but once again with a different question driving us. Not what causes what, but what helps, what hurts, and what could be changed to make things better. That shift in perspective is what transforms an analytical framework into an exploration engine. So, let's walk through it, feature by feature, outcome by outcome, for the automated detection of vector density increase solution. Start with the advantageous features, the ones actively working in the solution's favor. 3 stand out clearly. First, a robust vector density detection process. This is the technical credibility of the entire solution. The more accurate, the more reliable, the more consistently it performs, the more the solution delivers on its core promise. This capability must be protected, invested in, and continuously improved. Second, leverage from treatment provider and insecticide provider partnerships. These relationships are what translate a detection event into an actual response. Strong, well-managed partnerships mean faster treatment, better coverage, and more consistent outcomes. They are the operational backbone of the solution's effectiveness. Third, innovative analytical intelligence. The ability to interpret detection data smartly, identifying patterns, predicting surges, prioritizing responses, is what separates a basic monitoring tool from a genuinely intelligent prevention system. Maintain and evolve this capability, and the solution stays ahead of the problem it's designed to solve. As long as these 3 features remain strong and are continuously developed, the solution keeps delivering. Now, the disadvantageous feature, and it's a nuanced one. Getting camera vendors to allow in-device software hosting for video stream analysis without creating conflicts with their own software ecosystems is a persistent challenge. Here's the tension. On-device processing is the ideal architecture. It addresses privacy concerns, reduces hosting costs, and improves response speed. But asking camera vendors to accommodate third-party software on their devices is not a simple ask. It requires negotiation, technical integration work, and careful management of vendor relationships. The overhead associated with making this work at scale, across multiple vendors, multiple device types, multiple deployment configurations, creates a disadvantageous friction that the solution operators must navigate continuously. It's not insurmountable, but it's a real drag that demands deliberate management. Now bring time into the picture, and start with the time-linked advantageous feature. Seasonal capacity management, aligned with the natural cycles of vector density increase, is a capability that improves meaningfully with experience. Early in the solution's life, seasonal demand patterns may catch operators off guard, but over time, with accumulated data and deepening subject matter expertise, the ability to anticipate seasonal surges and pre-position treatment capacity accordingly becomes a genuine operational strength. Time builds the expertise. Expertise enables proactive capacity management, and proactive capacity management directly improves the solution's effectiveness during the periods when it matters most. A clear positive covariance relationship, one that rewards long-term operational commitment. But time also brings a disadvantageous feature, one that's fundamentally harder to manage. Unpredictable rainfall patterns create indeterminate demand cycles and capacity peaks. Unlike seasonal variation, which is broadly foreseeable, rainfall unpredictability is, by definition, difficult to plan for. A sudden unseasonal downpour creates rapid vector breeding conditions that can spike demand in ways that operational planning simply cannot fully anticipate. This irregularity makes maintaining steady operational coverage genuinely difficult. It's a time-dependent vulnerability, one that requires both operational resilience and contingency planning built into the solution's design. Now shift to outcomes and start with the clear winner. The most powerful, advantageous outcome this solution can achieve is maintaining a highly sought-after demand and supply of vector density detection and treatment services. When localities see consistent, measurable results, fewer disease outbreaks, faster responses, healthier communities, the reputation compounds. The solution becomes the obvious choice. And that reputation feeds directly into the time-dependent advantageous outcome, the progressive ability to scale the business, covering more locations, more locality types, and an expanding range of business models. Each successful deployment creates the foundation for the next, momentum that builds on itself over time. But alongside those wins, there are disadvantageous outcomes that must be honestly faced. The first is high cost of quality. This solution is distributed across multiple ecosystem partners, camera vendors, detection software, treatment providers, insecticide suppliers. Managing quality consistently across that entire distributed chain is complex and expensive. The use case drivers must absorb that cost as the price of maintaining the credibility that the solution's promise depends upon. And then there are the fluctuations in cost of sustenance, the time-dependent disadvantageous outcomes, weather variability, assurance commitment pressures, and the ongoing management of environmental side effects. None of these arrive in a predictable, manageable stream. They fluctuate, they accumulate. And unless some of them are addressed through the kinds of innovative thinking we've already explored, collaborative SLA prevention, lateral environmental research, community voice marketing, they become a persistent drag on operational and financial health. So, step back and take in the complete picture. Advantageous features driving detection quality, partnership leverage, and analytical intelligence. A disadvantageous feature demanding vendor relationship innovation. Time-linked features that reward seasonal expertise while remaining vulnerable to weather unpredictability. A powerful core outcome building reputation and scale. And cost pressures, both fixed and variable, that require proactive management and creative mitigation. This is what a full spectrum features outcomes time domain analysis looks like, applied with rigor to a real, complex, multi-stakeholder solution. And as always, the analysis shown here is illustrative. It doesn't claim to be exhaustive, but what it does demonstrate clearly is how this kind of structured thinking reveals exactly where the solution is strong, where it's vulnerable, and where the most valuable innovation opportunities are waiting to be found. Clarity first, exploration next, innovation follows. The canvas has done its job. It's shown us where the solution is strong and where the pressure points are. Now let's do something with those pressure points, because every one of them is an invitation to innovate. Start with the cluster of time-dependent challenges: weather-driven cost fluctuations, assurance commitment pressures, environmental side effect management, and the unpredictability of rainfall-driven demand spikes. These are interconnected, they're real, and they compound with scale. This is where lateral thinking earns its place. For environmental side effects, instead of simply complying with existing guidelines, go upstream. Investigate the root causes. What specific operational decisions generate the most environmental impact? Could timing adjustments, application method changes, or alternative formulations reduce those impacts without compromising treatment effectiveness? Run that lateral operational research. Document the findings. And then take those insights back to the SOP providing bodies, contributing actively to the evolution of the guidelines themselves. You move from passive compliance to active leadership. For unpredictable demand spikes, the question isn't how to staff up faster, it's how to design the system so it responds autonomously. An autonomous operational workflow, one that detects surge conditions, triggers predefined response sequences, and brings human judgment in precisely where it's needed, can dramatically stabilize assurance commitments even when demand patterns are erratic. The unpredictability doesn't disappear, but the solution's ability to absorb it without breaking improves significantly. Now look at the challenge of getting camera vendors to enable in-device software hosting, the friction of negotiating technical accommodation into vendor product architectures. This is a classic case for analogous thinking. Other industries have faced exactly this challenge, where a solution provider needed a hardware partner to embed a capability into their product offering. And the ones who succeeded didn't do it through contract pressure. They did it by making the capability part of the vendor's own product value proposition. If in-device hosting becomes something camera vendors want to offer because it makes their product more attractive, more capable, more competitive, the overhead of negotiation collapses. The partnership becomes pull-driven, not push-driven. Analogous precedents exist. The path is there to follow. And finally, the high cost of quality across a distributed multi-partner ecosystem. Here's where unconstrained thinking opens a genuinely interesting door. What if quality measurement wasn't dependent on manual audits or partner self-reporting? What if automated workflow integration tests and effectiveness measurement procedures could be triggered post-treatment across every partner, every deployment, every locality, systematically and consistently? Partners would receive structured, data-driven feedback on their treatment effectiveness. Quality consciousness would rise not because of penalties, but because of visibility. A systematic evaluation process paired with a clear communication framework creates a quality culture that's self-reinforcing. 4 challenges, 4 thinking styles, 4 innovation directions, all discovered through the same structured canvas. The framework reveals the pressure points. The thinking styles show you how to address them, and together, they turn a good solution into a genuinely exceptional one. Next, let's ground ourselves quickly in the solution we've been building around for the third example. The virtual trial room tackles peak capacity constraints in retail through a smart digital alternative. It captures customer images and garment data to generate an accurate 360-degree visualization of fit and appearance, all through a fully consent-driven process where customers retain complete control over their images and data. And once they've found their look, they can share it instantly across messaging platforms and social channels. Personal, privacy-respecting, digitally connected. That's the foundation. Now, let's revisit what it's built from. When we decomposed this solution, we identified the full set of inputs and functions that make it work. Virtual trial software, virtual trial device with camera and connectivity, technical support, sales coverage over retail hub localities, marketing campaigns with clothing retailers, retailer subscription management, brand reputation and customer base, social media integration for end users, end user consent management, privacy assurance and enforcement, device maintenance and insurance, and management of digital threats, each one essential, each one carefully positioned in the solution architecture. But when we mapped these against the input-outcome time framework, 3 of them revealed a particular tension, one worth examining closely. Device maintenance and insurance is time-varying by nature. Devices age, usage volumes grow, and retailer attentiveness to device care gradually diminishes. What starts as manageable maintenance becomes an increasingly complex and costly operational burden over time, critical to sustain, but expensive to scale. Management of digital threats is perhaps the most unpredictable of the 3. Unlike maintenance, which follows a somewhat foreseeable degradation curve, digital threats arrive without warning, and their complexity and sophistication grow over time as the solution becomes a more attractive target. Vigilance here isn't periodic, it's constant. And end-user consent management is a non-negotiable legal and ethical requirement, but every consent interaction opens a door to questions, hesitations, and concerns from users that need to be carefully handled. As the user base scales, that overhead compounds. The relationship with the solution's operational efficiency is negative, necessary but demanding. 3 tensions, all real, all worth thinking about differently. So, let's explore. The instinctive response to operational overhead is almost always the same: contain it, delegate it, minimize it. But that instinct, left unchallenged, produces solutions that are adequate at best. Let's see what opens up when we push further. Start with device maintenance and insurance. The traditional response is straightforward. Ask the retail clients to procure the devices themselves so that maintenance and insurance fall squarely under their business scope. Clean handoff, reduced liability, problem delegated. But apply unconstrained thinking, and a more intelligent architecture emerges. What if the devices ran a continuous self-check evaluation process, automatically identifying units showing early signs of performance degradation, flagging them for proactive maintenance before they fail? Maintenance becomes predictive rather than reactive, dramatically reducing emergency intervention costs. Pair that with a more targeted insurance strategy, limiting coverage to accidental damage, which is the genuinely unpredictable risk, rather than blanket coverage that inflates premiums. And then partner with a specialist device maintenance provider on a bulk maintenance deal with volume discounts, turning a cost that scales linearly into one that scales efficiently. The overhead doesn't disappear, but it becomes manageable, predictable, and structurally optimized. Now, management of digital threats, the conventional response. Purchase a licensed third-party security product for every device and let the provider handle it. Familiar, compliant, but fundamentally passive. Apply lateral thinking, and the framing shifts entirely. Instead of assuming a third-party product covers the threat landscape, start by mapping that landscape comprehensively. Which threats can genuinely be delegated to a third-party security product? And which ones require deliberate handling within the software architecture itself, in how the virtual trial software is built, how social media integration is designed, how installations are configured, and how maintenance workflows are structured? Every attack surface, the device, the software, the data pipeline, the social sharing layer, the user consent flow, needs to be evaluated on its own terms. and then a proactive, multi-layered threat management strategy gets built to cover all of them, not as an afterthought, but as a design principle. Third-party products handle what they handle best. The solution architecture handles what they can't. Together, comprehensive, deliberate, and genuinely robust. And finally, end-user consent management. The traditional approach: present the user with terms, conditions, and no obligation clauses before they start using the software. Accept, proceed, done. Legally sufficient. But practically, it often creates friction, confusion, and lingering concern about what exactly is being agreed to. Apply analogous thinking and look at how the most trusted digital platforms have addressed privacy anxiety in their user bases. The answer isn't just better consent language, it's building privacy into the product experience itself. What if the virtual trial software offered users the ability to obscure or anonymize personal features as a built-in option, so that even the data captured feels less exposing? What if users could trigger immediate, on-demand deletion of their images and data directly from the interface, without needing to navigate a support process? And what if automated data deletion ran in the background by default, clearing data after a defined period without any user action required? Consent stops being a legal gate that users pass through nervously and becomes an experience of genuine control that users actively appreciate. Trust is built not through declarations, but through demonstrable, usable privacy features. 3 challenges, 3 thinking styles, 3 innovation pathways, each one going well beyond what conventional problem-solving would have surfaced. And as always, the analysis shown here is illustrative. It doesn't constitute a comprehensive or exhaustive outcome. Every real-world deployment will carry its own context, its own constraints, and its own unique set of possibilities. But what holds true, every time, without exception, is this: when you learn to use these thinking frameworks with genuine discipline and curiosity, and apply them to real problems with real intent, the opportunities for meaningful innovation are truly boundless. That's the power of structured exploration. And every solution you build becomes sharper, stronger, and more human for it. Let's return to the 8-part construct one more time and apply it to the virtual trial room solution. Same shift in framing as before. Not what causes what, but what helps, what hurts, and what could be changed to make the solution stronger. Let's work through it. The advantageous features, the ones actively working in the solution's favor. 3 stand out clearly. Robust software with high-quality virtual imaging. This is the experience that everything depends on. If the virtual try-on looks realistic, feels accurate, and performs reliably, users trust it, and trust drives adoption. Device capability leverage. The quality of the physical device directly amplifies the software's potential. A well-chosen device setup creates an immersive, seamless experience that keeps users engaged and retailers satisfied. Innovative branding and social media integration. This is the feature that turns every user interaction into a marketing moment. When shoppers share their digital looks across social channels, the solution markets itself. Maintain these 3 features consistently, and the solution keeps delivering. Now, the disadvantageous feature: costly installation and operational support, driven by the lack of technical knowledge in most retail environments. Retailers are experts in clothing, not in managing software-driven devices. Every installation requires skilled support. Every operational issue requires intervention. That expertise comes at a cost, and it's a cost that scales with every new retail deployment. Essential, but persistently expensive. Time-linked advantageous feature: seasonal capacity management, aligned with the natural rhythms of retail buying trends. Early in the solution's life, seasonal patterns may catch operators off guard, but with time and accumulated experience, those patterns become predictable. And predictability enables proactive preparation, the right capacity, in the right locations, at exactly the right moment. Time builds the insight. Insight enables excellence. Time-linked disadvantageous feature. Concurrent capacity peaks across all locations simultaneously, with no ability to load balance resources between them. When the festival season hits, it hits everywhere at once, unlike a distributed system where quieter regions can absorb load from busier ones. This solution faces simultaneous demand spikes across all deployments with no relief valve. Maintaining consistent service availability under those conditions is genuinely difficult, and it's a structural challenge that grows more complex as the solution scales. Now the outcomes, starting with the clear advantage. The core advantageous outcome is a well-functioning demand and supply of the virtual trial room solution for clothing retailers. Retailers getting consistent value, users getting a seamless experience, and the solution earning the reputation that drives organic growth. And the time-dependent advantageous outcome, progressive, consistent business scaling across more locations, more retail formats, and more flexible business models. Each successful deployment creates the foundation for the next. Momentum that compounds with time. But the disadvantageous outcomes demand equal honesty. The high and evolving cost of legal coverage around user consent and data privacy agreements is a real and growing burden. As data privacy legislation continues to evolve globally, staying compliant isn't a one-time effort. It's an ongoing legal investment that the solution must absorb. And then, the risk of digital threats, privacy breaches, social media fraud, reputational damage. These are time-dependent outcome risks that grow in likelihood and complexity as the solution's user base expands and its visibility increases. They must be mitigated through architecture, not just policy. Step back and take in the full picture. Strong software, smart devices, and social integration pulling the solution forward. Installation overhead creating persistent friction. Seasonal intelligence building with time. Concurrent demand peaks creating structural stress, a growing reputation driving scale, legal complexity and digital threat risk demanding constant vigilance. This is what a full-spectrum features outcomes time domain analysis looks like, applied honestly to a real solution. The analysis is illustrative, not exhaustive, but it does exactly what it's designed to do. It shows you where to look, so you know exactly where to innovate. The canvas has spoken. It's shown us where the solution shines and where it struggles. Now, let's do what this entire exercise is designed for. Turn those struggle points into springboards for innovation. Start with the most unpredictable challenge: digital threats to user privacy and the risk of social media fraud. We've already explored this through lateral thinking, and the direction is clear. Don't just purchase a security product and delegate the responsibility. Instead, proactively map every attack surface, the software architecture, the social media integration layer, the installation workflow, the data handling pipeline, and design threat management into each one deliberately. The solution doesn't react to threats, it's architected to resist them. That's the lateral shift, from passive defense to proactive design. Now look at two challenges that are deeply connected: concurrent capacity peaks across all locations simultaneously, and costly installation and operational support driven by limited technical expertise in retail environments. On the surface, these look like separate problems, but look closer. Both stem from the same underlying gap: the solution's dependence on human technical intervention at moments of peak demand. And that dependence is exactly what analogous thinking is designed to address. The question to ask is, how have other industries solved the challenge of simultaneous demand spikes with limited specialist resources? The answer, consistently, is autonomous operational workflows. Systems that handle the majority of technical support and capacity management automatically, detecting issues, routing responses, managing load, and bring human expertise in precisely where it's genuinely needed, not everywhere by default. Applied here, an autonomous support workflow could handle the most common device issues, guide retailers through standard troubleshooting, and manage surge capacity intelligently, without requiring a specialist on site for every interaction. The concurrent peak becomes more manageable, installation support becomes more scalable, and the solution's operational efficiency improves without compromising its reach or flexibility. The blueprint exists in other domains. Analogous thinking brings it here. And finally, the growing cost of legal coverage around user consent and data privacy compliance. As regulations continue to evolve globally, we've already pointed to the direction here, and it's rooted in unconstrained thinking. Instead of treating compliance as an external obligation to be managed through legal spend, redesign the solution so that privacy protection is an intrinsic product feature. Built-in data anonymization, user-initiated deletion, automated data expiry, transparent, intuitive consent flows. When privacy is engineered into the product rather than bolted on through legal process, compliance costs reduce, and user trust deepens simultaneously. 2 outcomes from 1 design decision. 3 challenges, 3 thinking styles, 3 clear innovation directions, all surfaced through the same structured canvas. This is the full cycle of the approach in action. Decompose the solution, map the relationships, identify the pressure points, apply the right thinking style, and let the innovation follow naturally. The canvas doesn't just describe where you are, it shows you exactly where to go next. And with that, we close not just this session, but a complete and powerful learning arc. We've practiced the art of outcome exploration, pushing past the boundaries of what seemed like complete solutions, and discovering that the most innovative answers often live just beyond the edges of conventional thinking. Through 3 real-world examples, we've seen how exploratory frameworks turn pressure points into opportunities and challenges into springboards. But step back and look at the full journey we've taken together. Economic quadrant analysis gave us the why, the viability, and the motivation. Stakeholder value analysis gave us the who, the human connections and the value system. Solution decomposition gave us the what, the architecture and the relationships. And outcome exploration gave us the beyond, the innovation that elevates good solutions into exceptional ones. Together, these 4 lenses provide a genuine 360-degree capability for tackling real-world problems with clarity, confidence, and creativity. The frameworks are yours now. Go build something meaningful.